word this morning, found in Exodus chapter 2, verse 2 through 10. Chapter 2, verse 2 through 10. So the woman conceived and bore a son. And when she saw that he was a beautiful child, she hid him 3 months. But when she could no longer hide him, she took an ark of bulrushes for him, daubed it with asphalt and pitch, put the child in it, and laid it in the reeds by the river's bank. And his sister stood afar off to know what would be done to him. Then the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe at the river, and her maidens walked along the riverside. And when she saw the ark among the reeds, she sent her maid to get it. And when she opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the baby wept. So she had compassion on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." Then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call a nurse for you from the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for you?" And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go." So the maiden went and called the child's mother. Then Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages." So the woman took the child and nursed him, and the child grew. And she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And so she called his name Moses, saying, "Because I drew him out of the water." This is the word of God for the people of God. You may be seated in the presence of God. This morning, I really just want to talk about the power of shared mothering. Because today, as we celebrate Mother's Day, I'll just share with you how I'm feeling. I'm thinking about a mother whose child was taken from her just a few days ago, just around the corner. And regardless of the context around that story, not only has that mother's life been deeply impacted, but so has the life of his family, his friends, teachers, the community, and so many who are trying to make sense of the direction of our community and our world, what direction our world is headed in, are confused this Mother's Day. That for most mothers, Mother's Day is not just a celebration of bringing life into the world. It's also a day to reflect on the concern, the fear, the sacrifice, the tears and prayers and daily struggle and heartbreak that comes with protecting what God has entrusted us. And in the midst of all of that, we are reminded that mothering is not easy or something that we can always control. And so I think I would be doing you a disservice if I came up here and just preached a Happy Mother's Day sermon. I do want to celebrate our mothers, but I also want to honor all forms of mothering, because so often, especially in Black communities and disenfranchised communities, shared mothering is the tool that we have to use to push our children forward. Because the truth is, we cannot raise children alone. That if we want our children to be successful, we must depend on a network of care. Multiple women and mother-like figures who support and strengthen and stand in the gap to raise the next generation. It takes community to carry what one person cannot carry alone. That it takes a village to carry what one home cannot hold. And it takes the understanding that God never designed children to be raised in isolation, but in connection, in relationship, and in shared responsibility. And so today, I want to just talk through this text. When baby Moses' life is spared, when multiple women step in, each using what they had to protect, to guide, and to carry his life forward. The text starts off with a Hebrew woman giving birth to a son that she must hide for 3 months to keep him from being killed under Pharaoh's order. What was Pharaoh's order? Pharaoh's order was that every Hebrew baby boy was to be killed by being thrown in the Nile River. Why? Because Pharaoh was afraid that the growing Hebrew population would become too numerous and too powerful and rise up against Egyptian control. And so Moses is born into a world that desires him to drown in the Nile before his life can even get started. Our sons and daughters may not be facing the Nile River of Egypt, but many are still growing up surrounded by waters designed to pull them under before their purpose ever has a chance to develop. The Nile isn't just a place in the Bible, it's any setting or system that expects certain children not to make it. The Nile of violence, the Nile of poverty, the Nile of broken systems, underfunded schools, hopelessness, and environments that expect them not to survive or succeed. And just like in Exodus, it will take more than one set of hands to carry them through dangerous waters. But the very place where Hebrew boys were supposed to die is where a mother created the best possibility for survival for her son that she could. And through a surviving turn of events, a baby marked for death is saved because several women worked together, each playing a role in protecting him and helping him survive. And the power of this text is that Moses' survival doesn't rest on one mother's strength alone, but on a network of women who each carry part of the responsibility. And that is just my lesson for today, that our children will survive dangerous waters when we are willing to share the work of protecting purpose. That the next generation survives when communities decide that protecting children is shared work and not individual labor. And I hate to put one more thing on our plate, mothers, but the truth is when women share the work of nurturing, when we share the work of protecting and advocating, purpose has a better chance of surviving. And God often uses that shared care to carry children into their destiny. And so this passage teaches us that shared mothering is not weakness. It's one of the ways that God preserves life. Because when one person cannot carry the full weight alone, God raises up others to stand in the gap. You see, Paul teaches this principle. He says, bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. Ecclesiastes says that two are better than one, for if they fall, one will lift up his companion. Corinthians says the church is described as one body with many members, and no single part is meant to function alone. We were not meant to mother alone. And so today I want us to acknowledge mothers and mother figures who often serve as part of a network to grow a child. And I believe Exodus shows us what shared mothering looks like. First, we see a birth mother who protects. Nobody will protect you like a birth mother. The mother in Exodus 2, later identified as Jochebed, is living under a terrifying reality that Pharaoh has ordered that Hebrew baby boys be killed by being thrown into the Nile River. She has just given birth to what she believes, according to verse 2, is a beautiful child. Amen. You know, every mother thinks that their child is beautiful. And so she has given birth to what she sees as a child of beauty, a child of promise, a child of destiny, born to carry heritage forward. But this moment of admiration from a mother to a son is overshadowed by her need to protect her son, who is birthed into danger. And not only does she have to protect his life, she also has to protect herself and her family in the process. And you know what I thought when I read this text is that often some of us mothers don't have the luxury of simply admiring the beauty of our children. Because while we are loving them, we are also protecting them. While we are nurturing them, we are also preparing them. While we are celebrating, we are also worrying about them. Many of us are forced to think early about things some may never have have to consider as much as we do their safety and their survival and how our children will be perceived, how systems may respond to them, whether the world will see their humanity and their beauty as we do before labeling them as a threat. Recently, my oldest, Xavier, he has some pretty exciting things happening in his life. And many people that are around us have been asking the question, how do you feel about, letting your baby go and do that? Are you afraid? And I want to tell him, I'm afraid every day. I'm afraid when he goes to the mall with his friends. I'm afraid sometimes when he goes to school. And so I might as well take the risk of giving him the best possible opportunities to succeed. Because that's what we have to do for our children. Jochebed sees a beautiful child, but she must immediately think about how to keep him alive. But she refuses to surrender her child without a fight, even if that means releasing him into uncertainty. Because keeping him hidden is just as dangerous. She does everything she can do to keep him by her side. But as the baby grows, she realizes that she can no longer keep him safe. There are times when we as mothers can no longer keep our children safe. Somebody say limits. Mothers, we have to remember that we too have limits. Putting Moses in the basket was not a form of abandonment. It was a painful expression of hope and protection and love and sacrifice. Sometimes we have to let our baby boys go. Sometimes we have to let our children go. She makes a painful yet calculated decision to let him go, recognizing her limits and choosing the next best chance at his life. And so she positions her sister Miriam nearby to watch what happens. And the story quietly transitions to a sister who advocates. A sister who advocates. Miriam is the older sister of Moses, who we can believe to be only between 7 and 12 years old. Yet at her young age, she appears to be observant and courageous and strategic and protective. After Moses is placed in the Nile, Miriam stands nearby to know what would happen to him. She stays emotionally present in a dangerous moment. She remains attentive when others might panic or disconnect. She is the kind of sister who stays close when things are uncertain. She is not a mother, but she has motherly instincts. And so when she sees Pharaoh's daughter draw Moses from the river and looks at him with compassion, Miriam steps forward and she speaks. She says to the princess, "Shall I go and call a Hebrew woman to nurse the child for you?" Miriam recognizes that Pharaoh's daughter wants to keep the child alive. The baby needs care, and she knows exactly who can provide it, and she suggests her mother as a caretaker. This type of mothering is what we call advocacy. Standing in the gap and using wisdom and courage to protect her brother's future. She steps in and advocates for Moses to get what he needs and what the mother needs. And there are many who may look at this situation and see that it wasn't fair to put this type of weight on a child. Miriam should not have had to stand at the edge of a river wondering whether her baby brother would live or die, let alone carry the responsibility of advocating for his life. But this text exposes the painful conditions that make this type of care necessary in the first place. The truth is, many women and girls know what it feels like to become responsible for children they did not create. A younger sibling, a cousin, a niece, a nephew, neighborhood children, students, youth in the church, children whose own parents were overwhelmed and absent and struggling and unsupported. Many girls and women become caretakers long before they are ready, but many children survive because a woman was brave enough to step up. that sometimes girls are frequently expected to mature quickly. That sometimes grandmothers are expected to raise a new set of children. That sometimes shared mothering happens because a parent is working multiple jobs just to survive. That a mother is exhausted and carrying too much alone. That incarceration has disrupted the home. Sometimes it shows that addiction and mental health struggles have created instability. Immigration and illness and death has shifted family structures. And the truth is, many families have been held together by people nobody celebrates publicly. Hidden figures, quiet helpers, women whose names may never be mentioned but whose labor keeps a child stable. Fair or unfair, Miriam becomes an extension of motherhood when she sees an opportunity to receive help and she speaks up. And into the story comes a powerful woman who intervenes. Pharaoh's daughter becomes a mother figure who chooses to use her influence to help this beautiful child. She helps this beautiful child that she has drawn from the Nile to survive, grow, and become who he was meant to be. This weekend I was talking to my husband about how when we were growing up, it was the norm for parents to trust people in the community who could correct and guide or speak into our lives, and our parents generally believed that it was coming from a genuine place. That was a kind of shared responsibility. People had influence in children's lives, and many used that influence to protect and to guide and to help shape them as a form of community power. And while no one was perfect, we benefited from having multiple adults who cared enough to step in, to speak up, and to pay attention. But today, much of that trust has been broken down. Communities are less connected. People were isolated. Parents are cautious. People are more cautious, and rightly so. And we hesitate to intervene in our children, in their lives, but we learn, but that's the way that they get the things that they need to grow. But Exodus 2 pushes us to reconsider what we do with the influence that we do have. Pharaoh's daughter had power. She had status. She had access. She had protection and resources that Moses' mother and sister did not have. And when she encountered this vulnerable child, she used her power to preserve life. She could have looked away. She could have followed policy. She could have protected her own comfort. Instead, she stepped in. And while not every woman has royal power like Pharaoh's daughter, we have to learn how to use the influence that we do have. Some of us have a voice. Some of us have relationship. Some of us have resources. Some of us have position. Some of us have connections. Some of us have experience or are able to observe and notice when a child needs love and support. That is shared mothering. It's when God uses a woman to step in before a child falls through the cracks. It's when God uses a woman to become the stable, steady presence that a child needs to grow and make it through life. It's when God uses sisters and aunties and grandmothers and mentors and teachers and neighbors and church mothers to help carry a child through dangerous waters. Some of the people who protected us were never listed as our parents on paper, but they stood in the gap when we needed them. And today I want us to know that our children need us to stand in the gap. That is dire, and it's not just in York. So a lot of people complain about York, but it's everywhere. Just a couple weeks ago, a 12-year-old was killed in D.C. right around the corner from where my kids practice. It's everywhere. Motherhood is not easy. Being a child is not easy. And our children face grave danger before their lives can even get started. started. But I found hope in this story. I believe this text shows us on this Mother's Day that no matter how dire our situations, that our children have a better chance of making it through dangerous waters when we work together. And that God honors our attempts at saving the lives of our children, even if that means defying the immoral orders of leadership. Come on, we hear all the time that we have to submit to leadership, that we have to submit to policies and authority. But in Exodus 2, it reminds us that not every order is righteous, simply because it comes from power. Pharaoh's command was legal, but it was still immoral. And the women in this story quietly refused to cooperate with a system designed to destroy their children. And God honors their resistance. God blesses their courage to resist. God sees and rewards their holy courage. Isn't it good to know that God honors us when we refuse to bow down to injustice? That God meets our resistance with protection and purpose. Even our quiet prayers of resistance when we've reached our limits. God blesses those who stand in the gap. And he uses our quiet defiance to accomplish a greater purpose. God honored their resistance. And the system that was designed to harm the baby, listen to this, becomes the avenue of survival. And Pharaoh's daughter names him Moses because she drew him out of the water. And some of us are still here today because somebody drew us out of dangerous waters. Somebody can testify that I'm here today because somebody picked me up and pulled me in, even when my own mother couldn't do it, out of dangerous waters, because somebody stepped in and said, I may not be your mother, but I will not let you drown. Some of us have succeeded because somebody stayed after school. Somebody gave us rides home. Somebody brought groceries. Somebody answered a late night phone call. Somebody corrected us. Somebody covered us and encouraged us. Somebody protected and prayed for us. Somebody mentored and advocated for us, because multiple women and mother carry pieces of our lives. A mother might have carried one part, but a grandmother carried another. A teacher carried another part. A church mother carried another part. A big sister carried another part. A neighbor might have carried another part. And what one set of hands could not hold alone, another stepped up to carry it. And that's how God preserved our lives. And so I'm so glad for mothers today, but I'm also glad that God knows how to build a network of mothers around us. I'm so glad for my mother today, but I'm so glad that she had a network of mothers surrounding me. The Bible says that as one whom his mother comforts, so will I comfort you. I'm so glad that when one mother grows tired, God can send another set of hands to comfort us. That when one mother grows tired, God raises somebody up who will step in and intervene, that when systems fail our children, God sends voices that will speak up and advocate for them. I'm so glad that when a child is overlooked, God places somebody nearby who will not stay silent, but will step up on their behalf. God raises up people who will intervene with courage and advocate with wisdom. I'm so glad that God can send mothers who can turn political systems upside down and inside out to preserve His mothers whose love is stronger than the pressure of oppression that our children face. Mothers who have learned how to bear one another's burdens. Mothers who are not afraid to speak up. Thank God for mothers who carry both tenderness but also know how to resist. Mothers. All mothers, our biological mothers, our godmothers, those who provide a network of care, not just for us, but have done so for our children. And what I want you to take today is that God does not call one person to carry what requires a community. That Moses survives care that was distributed. And not just on one person's back. And that the same is true for our children today. They are most protected when responsibility is shared. That when love is multiplied and when no one believes that it is just the mother's job to carry the children. Because some of the mothers need to be mothered themselves. I'm still mothered. So it looks like ordinary care may actually be divine intervention in disguise. A mother releasing her child. A sister watching from a distance. A woman with power taking on responsibility that is not hers to carry. And none of them fully understood the outcome. But each act became a thread of God's plan for the life of Moses. And so the question today is, am I recognizing the weight of my influence in a child's life? What future could be changed by my presence? Who needs me to stand in the gap? Who is safer when I'm there? And so, and what mothers carry. And we also have to know our limits. That there are moments that we have to understand that we have to let go. And we have to trust God. We said, I trust in God. But do we really? Because the truth is, our children are not our own. That they are God's purpose